What was rock bottom in your life? I was in the ICU after breaking my spine in a car accident. C7 vertebrae. I couldn't move anything but my head and arms, and I couldn't move them much either. I couldn't talk because I had a tube in a hole in my throat giving me oxygen. I was given liquids intravenously. I was fed through a peg. A tube in the abdomen leading to my stomach. I had a catheter up my urethra for my urine, and a diaper for my uncontrolled bowel movements. From a healthy, highly athletic, independent 20-year-old, I was physically reduced into a piece of flesh, basically being kept alive mechanically. All this time my brain, at least once they lowered the morphine dosage enough, was working perfectly. So I was very aware of how pathetic I was, and of how much I had lost. That was rock bottom, but I can say I crawled back up little by little. I'm still in a chair, but I'm independent and generally happy. Unemployed, unable to walk, old injury from the military got worse all of a sudden, almost no food in the fridge, no painkillers, unable to stand up without massive pain, or to stand for more than a few minutes, crawling around on the floor of my apartment. Thank something for cool neighbors, the VA hospital, and not having a gun in the house. Lumbar radiculopathy, Bud S class 228, 229 and 238. Spinal arthritis. Now a year later I can walk and run, and most days are pain free. I've got a sort of job offer for federal Leo and get a check for $243 every month. You pay for it. Thanks. I am glad to pay taxes to help people in situations like yours. In general, not just because you're military. Don't think twice about the checks. Getting addicted to M. I lost my job and my car was repossessed. I moved into my mother's basement where I did M all day every day for a year. It was disgusting. The worst part was buying it. I generally kept to myself, but when I went to the M house to pick some, there would be tweakers everywhere freaking and shooting up and talking non-stop about paranoid nonsense. One time I went to my dealers and told her that the guy I had been hooking up with was HIV+. Turns out I was too. I was a successful person before this. BTW. I had a loft and a good job. Lost everything in a year. 5 years clean now and I have everything I had back again, but I'm still HIV+, of course. It is a direct consequence of idiotic behavior. Seriously kids, not even once. M is the absolutely worst, man. It twisted me up in ways no other substance ever has. I'm going on 8 months clean and I am so grateful to not have HIV or hepatitis from stupidity from IV use. I know a ton of people in my program who weren't so fortunate. I'm glad you have been clean so long. Thanks for sharing, man. I lived in a warehouse and could eat only $29 hamburgers from McDonald's on Wednesdays for 5 months, unless I found food in a dumpster behind the grocery store. Oh, and I used a 5-gallon bucket with a toilet seat on it for a toilet in said warehouse. Whoa, I hope all is well now. When I was 15, my father died. He was an incredible guy. My mom was a recovering cancer patient and hadn't worked in years because she was a stay-at-home mom for my brother and I. She worked at Burger King and some odd jobs and tried to make ends meet. I basically turned into a crazy person with everything going on. I started dating a guy who was abusive to me. By 16, I was strung out on drugs including H and getting the crap kicked out of myself on a pretty regular basis by my boyfriend. My mom worked so much and when I was home I went right to my room. I was still getting all A's at school so people didn't question much. I overdosed at school and was taken to the hospital where I was clinically dead for a minute and revived. I had taken pills that day and in an attempt to save face, convinced my mother this was a suicide attempt rather than habitual drug use. I continued to do drugs and see this guy who had basically degraded my self-worth to nothing until my 17th birthday. On that day, he accused me of cheating on him because I wanted to go see some friends for my birthday, one of whom was male. We physically fought. He cut me and himself with a knife, saying he'd kill us both. After quite the struggle, I locked myself in a room on the 2nd floor of his house and jumped out the window. I ran 3 miles home, got a restraining order, quit drugs from that day forward and vowed to change my life. No light task for a 17-year-old H junkie. For some reason I don't have issues telling this story because it feels more like telling someone else's story. That person wasn't me. I'm now 27. I've been married for 7 years to a wonderful man I love to pieces. I live in my dream home. I have a full-time job, but more importantly, I get to do my art on the side, and I have so much work that I sometimes actually have to turn jobs down. I realize often that my life had two ways to go from that point, and I somehow made the right choice. Rock bottom is a turning point. It isn't the end. Those without hope, hold on for it. You have to find it. Life gets better. Rock bottom is a turning point. It isn't the end. This needed to be repeated. Thank you. The week after my mother was diagnosed with multiple personalities, my best friend died. My dad was afraid to hug me because mother accused him of sexual abuse. He was completely innocent. I was holding it all together until I saw him fear of comforting me, and I just went to my room and stayed there for 3 days, not crying or anything, just skinned off, lying there. I left home a month ago, and no one here knows who I am. I'm feeling a whole lot better, and hug my dad all the goddamn time. Dad hugging is the best feeling in the world. The day my husband died, he had died from an accidental overdose on prescription pills. He had been struggling with addiction the night he died. He was at his grandparents' house, as he couldn't be around our boys, at that time, ages 9, 8, and 4, while he was having problems with that. I got the phone call at 5:45 am. I immediately started throwing up. I couldn't bring myself to tell my boys. They heard me scream and came through, but I couldn't get the words out. I told them everything would be okay. I'd just had a big shock, and that I would talk to them after school, but not to worry. They were having an awards ceremony at school that day, at 9 am. I had promised them I would be there. Somehow, I made it there. I don't remember a thing. I told them after school. It was absolutely, without doubt, the hardest, most harrowing day of my life. The week that followed was heck. The months that followed too. Actually, just pure heck. I am just so sorry. Mine seems kind of petty compared to a lot of the other posts, but it was after I had my daughter about 7 years ago. Her father had decided she was more important than us. I had kicked him out. I had no car, no phone, was living in a tiny apartment in a bad side of town, and was about 2 months behind in rent because I had no way to work. I had no idea what to do. I let my friend babysit, and I borrowed a neighbor's bicycle to drive about 4 miles down a busy street in Florida July weather to use my WIC check to get my daughter 4 cans of formula. On the way back I put the bags that carried the cans on the handlebars of my bike. Some kid in a car driving past threw a half-full 20 ounces Coke bottle at me and it hit me. I crashed the bike, the formula spilled all over the sidewalk, and I just sat there and cried. No one helped me. My heart feels so broken for you. I'm sorry that happened. You did not deserve it. 20 years old and homeless with a pregnant abusive girlfriend. I was selling plasma for drug money with no hope for the future. It was rough times indeed. Lost my job. Company went under. Car got stolen. Pocket got picked for my wallet. CCs were maxed within a few hours. GF dumped me and let me know by moving all her stuff out while I was at work. Ex-GF moved in next door with her new husband. Another ex-GF moved in a block away. My cat died. My mother announced she had terminal cancer. Probably some other stuff I've forgotten, too. This all happened in the space of 1 week, the week before Christmas. Sorry, but that sounds like a bad country song. If this were an interview question, I'd say to move in with your mother to be with her in her last few months. Preserve your savings, escape your exes, and avoid going home to a now empty apartment. Otherwise, I can't believe all this crap happened in 1 week. All you're missing is jobs, boils. I hope things have gotten better. Got out of college in May 2009. No job lined up. Almost a year later, April 2010, I got really fat. Still no job, no GF, and lost any friends I had just by not talking to anyone. I was absolutely miserable. That month, April 2010, I decided to turn everything around. I ran 6 days a week and had a strict diet. 4 months and 40 pounds later I was skinny as a rail, and it gave me so much confidence. I was never completely in shape in my life. I maintain it to this day. May 2011. After many interviews, I finally got my first job that I work at still today. It can be stressful, but everything is going well there and my coworkers are cool. I was also able to get my first car with the money too. Looks great and works great. I am still working on the GF and friend issues. It's really difficult once you've been out of it so long. I actually think it's for the best that I lost all my friends, because it's forcing me to not be the guy that follows along with everyone. Now I'm forced to be the organizer leader and get everyone together instead of sitting around hoping that someone will invite me somewhere. The bottom line is anyone who is at a low point in their life trying to make things better, it takes 3 things: a lot of time, a lot of trying, and a lot of doing what you've never done before. I can't say that in actual events I had a singular moment in time where I hit rock bottom. However, there was a point in my life where I had 100% stopped giving a frick about even trying. I wouldn't take care of myself, didn't love myself, and would go to bed night after night with someone who made me unhappy because I honestly believed that one night I might just not wake up again. I became so nihilistic that things that used to make me happy meant nothing anymore. There just no longer seemed a point in trying. If any moment, some drunk butthole could swerve into my lane and kill me. I hadn't lost a job, a loved one, hadn't been dumped, or come under any ill will. All of it was in my head. I didn't ask to exist, but I do. One day, I won't. Simple as that, and I can't change it, so I might as well enjoy the ride and work towards self-improvement and finding new ways to be happy. This was 2 years ago. To put it into context. Hey kid, once the big sleep comes, you'll have not a single worry left. Until then, try to enjoy yourself. Remember, you are at the center of your own personal universe. Other people are just that. Other people. This might be a little long. My rock bottom came about 3 years ago. I had just turned 20, and being a frisky forever Alana, met a girl online. We just wanted to frick. So we did, like rabbits. She said she couldn't get pregnant, but I wrapped my crap up anyway. Alas, it was to no avail. 2 months after meeting her, she's pregnant, and then begins the fast-paced race to the bottom once we move in together. In the month or so we lived together, all of the following happened. She told her co-workers I beat her. She completely alienated me from my very good friends who rented us the bottom floor of their house. She got drunk numerous times, completely destroyed just about everything I owned. And then the kicker. While I was out looking for a job, I came back to find that she had scheduled an intervention for the H addiction she falsely believed I had. Cue nervous breakdown. I spend a week and a half in a psychiatric hospital, and when I get out I find she's harassed my friends and family to no end, even accusing my father of being a child molester. And at the end, no lie, she ran off with another man, who turned out to be a woman-beating transvestite, which was lovely. Luckily, the kid wasn't mine anyway. The year after that was the darkest period of my life, and I'm still having a hard time getting back on my feet and trusting women today. You know, when reading "Don't stick your dong in crazy" on this site, I usually attributed it to inexperienced daters who hate their ex because they got dumped. Then you gave a perfect example of what that phrase actually fits. Not all us women are crazy, let alone that crazy. Glad you got out of that situation. Once, in the depths of my addiction to painkillers, I stepped out of my car at a gas station and promptly threw up the 7 Vicodin I had just eaten. I stared at them for a few seconds, and since I didn't have any more, or money to get any more, and because I could still read the 357 clearly stamped on the pills, I picked them out of my vomit and ate them again, and managed to keep them down the second time. Got arrested twice, lost my license, got fired, and knocked up my girlfriend in a 1-month period. It was bad enough to make me cry. Had to join the army and get married to provide for them all. Got 3 kids now and life seems good. I love my grandma. I'd say the past month, culminating in this week, have been tremendously awful. I'm living abroad currently, and met a girl almost 2 months back now. We agreed to meet up for language exchange, though it soon became apparent that wasn't all she wanted to exchange. She assured me she was on the pill, but I used a condom anyway. It broke, and then she shared she wasn't actually on the pill. Panic. Go to a clinic the next morning because plan B isn't available over the counter. Tell the girl I'm pissed at her for lying and don't want to see her again. She scratches herself until she bleeds, becomes unable to hear or speak, and has difficulty standing. What? In any case, I thought I was free. A couple weeks pass, and she calls and tells me 1. She hasn't had her period yet. 2. Oh, by the way, she threw up the plan B pill. 3. She's pregnant. What frick everything about this? We had discussed abortion when we initially got plan B should it somehow come to this, but now she's telling me she wants to keep the baby and we can raise it together. No number. We talked long and hard about abortion, and finally she had the procedure today. She thinks we're meeting tomorrow to talk about our future. I am trying to figure out how to never see her again and the anxiety is killing me. TLDR. See username. You're very lucky to be in a country where abortion is legal. Last year, I was on the run from an abusive relationship with nothing but my car and what I could fit into a green army duffel bag. I tried to go back to school, full tuition scholarship, no housing, and ended up living between about 3 or 4 different people, rarely staying in the same place for more than a week. Any money I got was from Reddit, on the Our Favors board, taking digital art commissions and work as I could get them. The threads are still in my post history. I knew I did rock bottom. Really, the night before I left, I was staying in some girl's house, but I slept in the basement, which was unheated and uninsulated in the middle of winter. It was probably 10 or 20 degrees outside and I could see my breath. I'd been sick for a week or so and got progressively weaker. My parents and I weren't speaking, and hadn't been for about 2 years due to a falling out when they'd found out I was moving in with my boyfriend, that I wasn't a Christian, or straight, and that I was cross-dressing as a guy in my spare time. I hadn't heard from my brother in about 4 months, and none of my friends had contacted me in about 7 months, save for a 1 or 2 in Pittsburgh. I hadn't eaten anything in about 4 days and I had some sort of severe URI. The week of finals, my host threw me out. I got on the road, ended up calling just about everyone I knew. Drove 6 hours on no sleep and no food to Jackson, Ms. Slept for 2 days. My life is now a heck of a lot better. I still live in Jackson, in the art district. I have a wonderful, caring partner, and work as an independent contractor in the graphic arts field. I am warm, loved, happy, and a little bit chubby. Thank you, Reddit, for supporting me last year. You probably saved my life. TLDR. Homeless for 7 months in northern Alabama. Realized I'd hit rock bottom in a basement in the middle of winter. Cold, alone, hungry, and completely out of contact with anyone I cared about. I'm much better now. 1 year ago I fell off a rooftop, suffering numerous injuries of which the most devastating was a spinal cord injury that left me paralyzed from the belly down. In 1 minute I went from a happy, successful, young, 27 man to a wheelchair-bound disabled person. Those first few months were the hardest and most upsetting times of my life, but my friends, family and girlfriend have helped keep me going and I now once again feel a purpose in life. There are still dark, depressing days, but I deal and carry on. Sometimes my smile is not always genuine, but mostly I'm happy to still be breathing. And now I bust wheelies to show off and get the best parking spots, so it's not all bad. My wife of 20 years walked out on our marriage on Christmas Eve. First she only wanted some space, then I discovered the shit she was cheating on me with. Then came the divorce. Then came losing all my stuff and half my savings of which she contributed none. Then my best friend's wife befriending her and in turn I lose my best friend to her and the new guy. Then came the Facebook discovery that she was engaged to said shit within a few months of our divorce. The pain, anger, confusion, stress, uncertainty, self-loathing and depression created by being abandoned led to my suicide attempt in October 2009. I used a leather belt, one of the kinds twisted by 3 thin leather braids, wrapped it around a bar in my closet, wrote letters to my mom, ex-wife and niece, set out enough cat food for a few weeks, put my head in the loop, tightened it up and dropped out of here. I had to have blacked out. Shouldn't be here. Where the belt connects to the loop hook, it broke from my weight after some amount of time. The only benefits to being overweight, I woke up on the floor resting in a nice pool of blood from the large gash in the back of my head after having hit a corner piece of furniture on my way down. It was night. My cat was licking my face. The biggest, dumbest mistake I had ever made, but I was alive. Never again will I sacrifice myself in that way for someone who does not and did not deserve me. For anyone who thinks cheating on someone you purport to love is cool or exciting or the best way to end a marriage or relationship, think again. Infidelity ruins people, families, friends, kids. It creates more problems in our country than you can imagine, and it never gets talked about in more than a passing light. Socially, it seems to be nothing anymore. An inconvenience that most people are cool enough to deal with immediately. The amount of times I've heard dead wrong, pointless and inane advice like just suck it up or man up and move on would fill a book. All I'm saying is, the effects of this behavior can kill. At least the cat stuck by your side. Frick everything else. When I was 7, my mom got cancer and my dad left. We didn't know what to do because all of the medical expenses were going to be a problem with my dad gone. My mom died because she couldn't cover the costs. I was wrestling with my female roommate after we had some drinks in a hot tub. She was 19 and it was completely platonic. The neighbors heard and called the cops. They arrested me for domestic violence and possibly rape. She was afraid of getting busted for MIP, so she just there scared of the cops, but she did tell them that nothing bad happened. As soon as she got to the hospital, she told the nurses that nothing happened. She told the judge that nothing happened on the first court date. She told the prosecuting attorney nothing happened. She told the judge nothing happened on the second and every subsequent court date nothing happened. The judge still attempted a conviction to the very day right before the actual court date until he finally gave up. During the months I moved in with a girl I was seeing, and she knew how pained I was during the whole process, and when I broke it off with her, she filed a police report that I abused her to get back at me. Nothing ever came of that, as I obviously had never abused her. For over a year I was terrorized by the legal system and a woman. All the while I was, and am, innocent. It was horrible. Just now, failed university for the second time and can't return until I can pay for it myself. No job prospects. An amazing capacity for making people dislike me. What seems like dwindling intelligence. Debt collectors at the door. And an unholy compulsion to give up on anything I try once it becomes the least bit difficult or inconveniencing. On top of all that, I've convinced myself I might be transgendered, but it's more than likely just an overactive imagination and unhealthy pornography intake, which makes me fawn over and idealize the women I meet to a degree that makes a man of my appearance seem like a crazy, disgusting pervert. But it's not a patch on those people with real problems. I've got a comfy life and really shouldn't moan. To the OP, it may have been a crappy time, but if your mom didn't 3, sometimes 4 jobs, it could have been a heck of a lot shittier. Women like this often work themselves into an early grave. Be sure to express your understanding and gratitude to her by making her life a little easier after you're done staring at that fridge. Dad had cancer, quit my odd job foreman on an oil rig. To be around him for a year, getting painkillers and drugs was difficult, expensive and unavailable all the time. Had to drive him for the first time to hospital. In pain he was shouting instructions on how to change gear all the way. He used to beg me to use the iron on his back to distract him feeling the deep pain. I used to tearfully kiss his hand. He was very happy with the care and dedication I gave him. I kept nursing him and help him smoke his cigarettes. He asked me to smoke with him instead of sneaking out in the cold. His skin reached a point where no spot is suitable for another shot of painkillers. I think it was morphine or some other drug. He died, and with him I lost the care for life. Walked into my room to find GF in bed with roommate's little brother. Turned to my friend Jack D. Came back to full consciousness in jail with 3 criminal charges being laid on me. What a day. I was a rage addict for 2 years. During that time I went from a college student to a junkie. I was dating someone who was an even bigger crackhead, so this didn't help my addiction. I was dope sick almost every day. I had so much hate for myself and my life. I didn't care. I stayed with his parents during the most of this 2-year sickness. They were very unstable and always fighting and kicking us out every other day. My parents were so ashamed I couldn't bear to stay with them. I was homeless and addicted to the worst drug, in my mind, and living almost an hour away from anyone I knew. I hit my rock bottom one night when I had a fight with his mom and had to take all my stuff and leave, trash bag full, down the street. It was so cold out I remember just shivering, dope sick, and weak as heck. I noticed my shirt became very moist, so I looked to see what had spilled. It was blood. Not from anything completely weird, but my nose had bled very badly everywhere. So, now at this point it's like 1 AM and I am bloody as crap with a trash bag crying walking down a dark street in PA. I had no money, no food, and no phone. I was alone. I was so sick of my life. I felt I had died that night. Well, the good part, I woke the next day somehow in a bed and phoned my mom with a friend's cell phone. I told her I was done, and I needed her to come and take me home. I never went back, and I have been clean for almost 5 years. I do not relate to the person I was. All the memories feel like stories I made up to myself. One thing I've learned is that there is no such thing as rock bottom. Things can always get worse. Without limits, it is possible that one can never reach the bottom. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.